안녕하세요. 한국어 배치의 이안입니다. So I've been talking about my experiences learning Korean, my Korean language learning journey in this series of videos with purple thumbnails. And while I was working on the last video, another experience came to mind, another thing that keeps happening to me came to mind, and I thought I should make another video to talk about that. So in case you haven't seen it yet, in the last video in this series, which you can watch right here, I mentioned that sometimes things just like come out of my mouth in Korean. Things that I don't necessarily know what they mean, but my intuition is telling me are correct because I've acquired them through getting tons and tons of comprehensible input. I think that phenomenon, though, has another dimension to it, another layer to it. So the person with whom I speak the most Korean is my girlfriend, Nanju. You know, that girl from the vlogs. With Nanju, I have the opportunity to experiment with Korean. I have the opportunity to explore a wide variety of different types of conversations and topics with her. I really think she provides for me that low anxiety environment that Stephen Krashen talks about in all of his work on second language acquisition. There's something kind of interesting that keeps happening when we talk, though. So sometimes during these conversations with Nanju, I'll push my limits. I'll try new things, try a more colorful way of saying something, you know, maybe make a joke or something like that. You know, like while I'm riding the wave of the conversation, I try to get some style points here and there. And included in this category, I think, are those moments where stuff just comes out and I kind of just let it. When I push my limits, though, I stumble. A lot of the time after I let those words come out or I try some new thing, I immediately chicken out and try to correct myself. In other words, I try to edit what I've said. I try to reference some sort of grammar or vocabulary word that I've learned through study that maybe I feel is a little bit more correct after hearing what I've just said. Now I had to dig deep into the vault for this memory because I don't necessarily remember all of these moments, but I do remember how they made me feel. So there have been multiple times where Nanju had given me something to do. She was like, hey, go do this thing. I don't know, take out the trash or something. Honestly, I don't even remember what it was, but it was something that I had to take care of. It was some responsibility that she was giving to me, some problem that was now mine to solve. So of course, when she, gives me that responsibility, the thing I want to say back in English is, all right, I'll take care of it. But what I said in Korean came out more like this. 알아서 할게. 아니, 처리할게. And what she said back was, the first one's better. In fact, her response every single time that this happens is, the first one's better. She keeps saying, why do you keep second guessing yourself? And when I think about that whole kind of situation, it's not just with her. I think every single time that I've doubted myself after just saying what naturally comes out and tried to fix it, I've been told by the native speaker that, no, the first one was correct. All of that refined, grammatically correct speech that I feel is correct doesn't really match my intuition. Yet for some reason, I always want to correct myself and change it to that. The point is that this secret sauce that I'm talking about here is going with your gut. It is trusting your intuition. Your intuition is more of an automatic response. I think it's maybe a bit more of a direct display of what you have acquired and not necessarily what you've learned. A much better way to measure the naturalness of what you're saying in Korean, what you're outputting in Korean, is to just do it and then gauge the native speaker's reaction. Don't correct yourself unless the reaction to your words is confusion, because you're probably right. I think these memories are one of those visceral experiences that made it much easier for me to conceptualize how language acquisition worked for me. It was one of those things that contributed to me feeling like, I get this, while I was reading Dr. Krashen's work. This personal experience of mine, this repeated personal experience of mine, I think, at least for me, serves as some evidence that what Dr. Stephen Krashen says about second language acquisition is true. It's a real world situation that shows that the roots of my natural language output are in my intuition, things I've acquired, not things that I've studied, memorized, and learned. So I taught kindergarten in Korea for a few years right after college. What's kind of funny is that I think I learned a lot about how to be an adult at kindergarten, which is kind of poetic in a way. I went through all this schooling and I ended up right back at kindergarten. Anyway, I learned a lot about learning from the kids. I know that's kind of cliche to say, but as a language learner, I got to watch kids learn a language mostly through input in real time, both their native language and then this other language, English, that they were expected to learn how to speak in this, immersion environment of the English kindergarten. What's interesting about this is that I noticed that the times where I was goofing around, where I wasn't being serious, where I was cracking jokes and just having fun with the kids, not trying to speak easy English that they could understand, but just being natural with them. These were the times where kids acquired language from me. The things that they were learning from like textbooks and workbooks and whatever study materials, that didn't really seem to stick until they were at like higher levels where they were mostly fluent in English. Anyway, the way that I recognized that this was happening was I would say things to the kids like, "No way, Jose," or whatever, fun stuff. And then I would hear it from students at the proper time, in the right context, with the right, connotation to their speech, all over the place a few weeks or even months later. I think expressions like that stuck with them because they understood the message, they understood the context, and they found the situation compelling enough to really focus on what I was saying. The point is, maybe some things just need to be experienced, felt, to be understood. Maybe we can't always pass on experiences and knowledge just through explaining them or sharing them. Maybe this whole language acquisition through comprehensible input thing, maybe this is something that people don't totally understand until it's happening to them. I make these videos and try to talk about this, and I'm realizing that it's kind of hard to put into words exactly how the whole process feels in a way that I can kind of take my experience and pass it on to other people where they just get it immediately. So I'm sharing these experiences of mine with you for two different reasons. One of them is that hopefully sharing these experiences can help me connect with other people who have had similar ones, so we can kind of, start a conversation around this whole idea of, hey, this worked for me. What worked for you? Talking about this stuff, I think, can help improve our understanding of what is working. Academic research is good, it's important, it's valid. I'm not saying what they're doing isn't good. I am saying, though, that I think practitioners, people who are in the trenches, learning languages, talking to each other about doing it, things like that, I think they need to have a conversation as well about what has worked and is working for them and the other people around them. The second reason I'm sharing these stories is because I want to provide some motivation to people who are earlier on in their language learning journey. I want to try to give people some different ideas of ways to measure their progress, how to notice what's happening to them and keep track of the wins, and how to recognize what actual improvements in language learning skill really feel like. I hope these are helpful for you. It's been great for me to kind of look back on my Korean language learning journey and pick out the things that worked and didn't work, and kind of revisit my wins and my happiest moments. Do you have any interesting experiences like mine, or any experiences that made you feel like you were starting to acquire Korean? Please share those in the comments if you do. I'd love to see if your stories kind of unlock some tucked away memories of mine or something like that. Anyway, that's all for this one. I will see you in the next one. Bye. Just kidding, I'm back. I want to end today's video with a little announcement. So as you know from these announcements at the end of the videos, I've been putting together a mailing list, an email list for Korean Patch, where I can send out free materials to the community and also share information about the courses and books that I'm developing related to the things I'm talking about on this channel. Right now, we're in the middle of the registration period for the Hanja Pitchi beta test, which is a really cool opportunity you can learn more about by joining the mailing list. I made a few extra videos on the topic of Hanja that I only made available to the people on the mailing list, which is free, by the way. So if you'd like to see those and learn more about what I think about Hanja and take part in the development of the project, head over to our website at koreanpatch.co. You can sign up for the mailing list right there on the main page. It's like right underneath the logo, and you should be able to get access to all of that stuff for free. I just wanted to let you all know one more time. Thanks again for all your support, and bye for real this time.